Mission43 Podcast. We're doing something a little different today. We're talking about classical education in this great state of Idaho. We have Sean Hunter here, who's the newest and founding principal of Valor Classical Academy, which is in the process of being built in Kuna, Idaho. He's a Leaders Fellow from Cohort 3, spouse of Leaders Fellow from Cohort 1, who's way better than he is, and he has some remarkable stories and things. So if you have kids in the state of Idaho and are willing to learn a little bit more about what classical education is, this is your jam. Let's get after it. Welcome to the Mission43 Podcast, a podcast dedicated to discussing the struggles and triumphs of transitioning to life after the military. I'm Dan Nelson. I'm a former Army Special Forces officer who's personally experienced the challenges of transitioning to civilian life. In every episode, we'll be sharing tips, strategies, and real-life stories of veterans and their families who've chosen Idaho for their life after the military. So join us, and let's start the conversation. Sean Hunter, Leaders Fellow from Cohort 3. Thank you for joining us, man.
Fantastic, Brad. Glad to be here.
Well, so you have a bunch of different unique storylines, but one of the reasons we're really thankful and proud of you is that you're now the principal of a brand new classical academy in the Bloom Charter School network called Valor Academy in Kuna. Is that correct?
Yep, I'm going to be the founding principal for Valor Classical Academy. We're opening in fall of 2026.
Okay.
So a little ways out, but yeah.
Well, you're not the first Leaders Fellow that we've plugged into this public charter school network that is really near and dear to our hearts in a lot of different ways. But I think a lot of the people listening probably don't really know that the Idaho Classical Schools of, or was it ACSI?
ACSI.
American Classical Schools of Idaho?
Correct.
So for someone like me that has no idea, what is a classical academy and how does it differentiate itself from traditional schools?
So, and I'm going to back up a little bit and talk about charter schools, right? So we are a public charter school. So that means it's open for everyone. We're not a private institution.
Right.
And the model that we teach is American classical education. And when you look at what American classical education is, we train the minds and improve the hearts of students through a classical content-rich curriculum where we emphasize virtuous living, traditional learning, and civic responsibility. And so when we look at, let's take that apart a little bit and let's talk about, training the mind. So that's the traditional knowledge base, right?
Math, science, English.
Math, science, English, right? History, the co-curriculars, the fine arts, PE. So when we talk about training the minds, we're talking about the knowledge that we're giving students.
Sounds like normal school.
Sounds like normal school, but we do it in a classical sense. We're not innovative, right? We are traditional. So when you look in our classrooms, they will look like your traditional classrooms. We don't do devices for our learning, right?
Oh,
Students
okay.
are sitting there, and they will learn cursive in third grade.
Cursive?
And in early grades, in the elementary grades, the focus on literacy and numeracy. So we're math and reading, right? So They do a lot of phonics, and we take them through a program called Singapore Math, where they go from the concrete to the conceptual, and so it's time-tested teaching techniques that is very teacher-led. It is a rigorous content that the students go through, but it is teacher-led, and it's the traditional way of doing things, right? It's what built the greatest generation. It's the way they learned, right?
Okay.
It's what this country was kind of built on. And when we talked about that it's an American classical school, sometimes classical schools, you would get a feeling or a rep that, hey, this sounds like English boarding school, right? But this is an American classical school where, in the words of Thomas Jefferson, we're going to have farmers that can read Homer, right? This is for everyone. This is not exclusive. This is a part of our American tradition, and this is what we're trying to build.
It sounds inspiring, and as someone that learned cursing in third grade, I think cursive or cursive?
Cursive.
Oh, my bad.
Cursive.
Well,
Cursive.
Somewhat similar to what I learned as well, but I did not grow up in the classical education.
Let's talk about that cursing, right?
Oh, okay, yeah.
Instead of teaching cursing, we teach virtues, right? When we talk about improving the hearts of students, we're talking about teaching virtues,
yeah,
right? And when we go back to this, that seems a little bit different for sure. So we have this traditional learning method, which is, kind of different than what we're seeing in current education. But then we also have this virtue piece, which to the modern ear sometimes sounds, what do we do? What is that? Why is that?
What is it?
So let's talk about it. Declaration of Independence, most famous line in it, right? Life, liberty, pursuits of happiness.
Yeah.
Right? It's kind of an odd phrase, the pursuit of happiness. Why were they throwing that in there? Why was that in there? In fact, when I was young, I was like, I don't get it. I don't get that at all. Well, that was written in 1776, right? 1787, the Northwest Ordinance, which is basically how do we incorporate new states? So that's, Ohio, Indiana, Michigan. Inside the Northwest Ordinance, they said, education for the moral and the knowledge. Education is important for good governance and the happiness of people. So our founders were concerned about the happiness of the people. And so when we look at, they were classically trained. They understood, the Greek philosophers. And when we go back to Aristotle and he talks about happiness, he talks about the way to happiness, the only true happiness is through a virtuous life. And so to me, when the founders are talking about the pursuits of happiness, it's the pursuit of virtue. Mm-hmm. And when they talk about this is necessary for good governance, they're talking about virtue. And so much so that George Washington said that, virtue and good governance, and civic responsibility are interlinked. They're inseparable. So they considered virtue as much as knowledge essential to the creating of American citizens. So we want smart, wonderful students. Mm-hmm. If we just make them smart, in the words of C.S. Lewis, and I'm paraphrasing here all of my stuff, in the words of C.S. Lewis, we're just making clever devils. But if we have smart, virtuous citizens, now we have a republic that we can stand on. Now we're making Americans. And this was the vision of our founders. And this is the vision that we carry forward with American classical academies. We're making American citizens. We're making the best, right? We're making smart, knowledgeable citizens that are good people. And we're doing it for the sake of them.
It sounds, remarkable and also kind of intimidating to someone like me that, I think you're the first person on our podcast that's quoted, what is his name? Aristotle and Socrates and C.S. Lewis. I don't know. I haven't heard about some of those things, but it's remarkable. But so what's more important than at a school like yours is going to be? Is it the overall test scores, that reading at grade level or performing mathematically at grade level, or is it citizenship, active citizenship, and learning that level of virtue and how to be dare I say, how to be a good American?
Yeah. So we don't teach the test, right? We teach the virtues and the knowledge. Doing well on tests is a byproduct of that process, right? We teach the best of human history, right? We teach the best ideas. We look back and we say, okay, this is the best piece of literature. This is the best thought. And we teach the students that. And because of that, even though we're not teaching to the test, students score better on those tests that have been through a classical education than through a lot of other forms of education. So, and they're more successful in life, right? So we have at our core that we're building this happy, wonderful citizen, right, with all this knowledge. All the other good things that parents are looking for, right, test scores, mm-hmm. Success in life.
College scholarships.
We well prepare them to do very well in all of those aspects of life. And so they walk out, even though that's not our goal. Our goal is to create these virtuous, knowledgeable citizens but as virtue, as part of that, right? Now you're ready to be successful in the world, whatever your vocation is, whatever you decide to do.
What grades are you actually teaching?
So we will eventually be K through 12. Mm-hmm. Okay. We start off K through 6 because this is such a different sort of curriculum. It's really tough to insert people into it in the high school level and have them be successful. So we start K through 6, and then every year we will expand one grade level.
How many seats does your football stadium hold?
We don't have a football stadium.
I believe it was James Madison that once said, and I'm paraphrasing as well, that any school without a football team is in danger of becoming a library. I'm give or take. I'm not sure if it was him or maybe Alexander Hamilton. I don't know, something like that. I'm just kidding. So this is not a traditional school, but can students at your school still participate in extracurriculars?
Yeah, and so extracurriculars are really driven by student interest, faculty interest, and doing things that support the mission of the school. So we never do anything. Everything is done very deliberately. Mm-hmm. So, competing in athletics is fantastic, right? And there's a lot of development there, but we do it still with that purpose in mind of what the school's foundation is. In fact, physical education and athletics, it's a big part of it, but it'll be driven by the school leadership, the faculty, and,
But this is not an idea. Like, even though you're starting a school that's not going to even open until 2026, like, this is not the first American Classical Academy in Idaho. There's this will be the third or the fourth?
So this will be the fourth. So the initial Classical Academy was in Fruitland and Payette. It's called Treasure Valley Classical Academy. And then just this past fall, in fall of 24, the second opened, Idaho Novus, which is in Avamore.
Right.
North Idaho Classical Academy will be opening soon also. And then we will be the fourth in the network.
And one of those, the Novus Academy, is also where one of your fellow fellows from the Leaders Fellowship of Mission43, retired Marine Corps officer, is also in school leadership there.
Yeah. So while this isn't a military school,
no,
it does have a lot of appeal for people with a military background.
Well, it's called the Valor Academy,
and so it is called the Valor Academy, which is, Let's talk about this making of American citizens and maybe talk a little bit about that story, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
So Valor Classical Academy is actually in the Valor subdivision in Kuna. The Valor subdivision used to be a sod farm owned by the Borbonus family.
It's a name I'm familiar with.
Yeah. And so the developer there saw our mission, saw, kind of the vision that we have, and donated land, the M3 company. So we're very thankful for them because this isn't possible without the support of community members like that. But, the sod farm that was there, and the Borbonus family owning it, there was a young man by the name of John Borbonus that would play in the sod farm, play in the dirt, right? Grew up, as part of the family business. Now, this young man could do anything, right? He had all the advantages in the world, and he chose to serve his country, right, in the Army. 19 years old, he's over in Iraq on a patrol base. 1 month short of his 20th birthday in April of 2007, he's at a guard post and manning a machine gun when a vehicle-borne improvised explosive device filled with hundreds of pounds of explosives comes barreling down towards the gate. John stays on his post, delivers an unrelenting stream of fire at the vehicle, diverting it from striking the main gate. But in the resulting explosion, he's killed.
Yeah.
And so John is awarded for those actions. He's awarded the Silver Star. And when we talk about culture and everything being deliberate, when you look at our logo, it's modeled after the Silver Star that John received. When we talk about Valor Classical Academy, there's a reason it has that name, because it's harking back to those virtues, right, of courage and service, which are two of the virtues that we strive to inspire in our students.
This is something that really gets me every time. It makes me so excited that you, and knowing the person that you are through our experience together, inside and outside of Mission 43, you being a fellow and everything. But John Borbonus was a Boise High School graduate. Mm-hmm. And like you said, he could have done anything, but he chose to enlist in the Army. And knowing his story for the almost, 2 decades that I have, there is no one that should be more widely known in this community for his heroic efforts. And I don't say hero lightly. Mm-hmm. Like, he saved an enormous amount of lives. And from a family that, was very influential in this community. So the last thing he had to do was enlist to become, an airborne infantryman in the United States Army. He chose to do that, and then, did something that most of us could only think about and hope that we'd act in the same way, and manning a 240 machine gun and telling everyone else to get out and staying behind in his final act. It's a remarkable deal, and I just cannot think of something more special in this community than a school that uses John's memory to perpetuate like all the good things about this country and community.
Yeah. So when we talked about, and we're very honored, right? And it's really part of what's sold me on this particular pursuit, right? And what doing this, when we talked about the virtues, we talked about courage. These are our 6 virtues: courage, courtesy, honesty, perseverance, self-governance, and service. And so the best way to inspire the moral imagination of young people and old people is through stories, right? And so when you're exposing them to the best of literature, the best of right, you can really inspire them. And I know that's part of learn, lead, inspire, and I might have mixed those up. But the Mission 43, like, how do we inspire that next generation, not for necessarily military service, but service to their communities, service, civic responsibility as part of this. And so we're really proud to carry the legacy of service and courage that John had and use that to inspire future generations. And not only that, but also use that as a jumping off point for all of the Idaho service members that were killed in action. And how do we use that, and how do we commemorate that? And not in a sense of a static memorial, but how do we use these stories to inspire virtues and to inspire people, on this American path.
It's more than building a statue.
It is.
And
that is a part of it.
Certainly. I mean, I'm not saying anything negative about that. I just think that the living tributes are the ones that make an impact, right? Mm-hmm. And the more that we can get America's youth involved to try to understand those things, and like you said, through the art of storytelling, leadership through storytelling, truly, is the only way that can really, truly be.
Yeah, I mean, can you imagine using the story to connect to, hey, here was an Idaho kid that did this extraordinary thing. Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of the things to recognize is it's all the story. It's just people, and you have an opportunity to be that person, right? That inspires other people. And to sit there and...
It doesn't mean you have to join the military either.
Doesn't mean you have
can
to
just live a
join
life of service and sacrifice. Correct. And putting others before you.
Absolutely.
In whatever you do.
Absolutely. But how do we... Okay, now let's take that. Let's talk about the Gettysburg Address. What was Lincoln saying? What did he talk about? Mm-hmm. Let's talk about, let's go back to some of the works of Shakespeare, and let's talk about some of the stuff in there, and how does that apply to what we're talking about.
I get so excited about this project that I'm so happy that you're spearheading and leading.
So I have only you to thank for this.
No, not at all. So let's talk about how you got here. Like, where the hell did you start your time? Because you are a military veteran. You retired
Correct.
from the United States Army.
Yeah, not Army National Guard.
Sorry.
It's okay. How far back do you want to go?
Where were we born?
Let's just talk about the start of the military.
Sounds
career.
good.
All right. So September 11th, 2001, I'm teaching 7th grade science in Indiana.
So you were an educator before?
I was an educator before.
Okay.
Right. So you can imagine what happens, and having to explain to 7th graders what terrorism was, right? I wasn't in the service at this point. Fast forward a year and a half, suddenly we're getting ready to go into Iraq. I was like, whew, I guess we're doing something here. And I felt, for me, I couldn't sit on the sidelines. So I was like, oh, we're actually doing something. So I think I signed up 3 days later. And I didn't go the active duty route. I went the National Guard route because I went for one thing. I said, all right, I want to deploy, all right, and then I want to be done. And so I got that opportunity in 2007, 2008 to deploy to Iraq. And I came back and I sat down with my wife, Dawn, who's very popular in Mission43.
She's way better than you, but yes.
Yes, yeah.
Cohort 1 of the fellowship, by the way. Just saying, the best cohort.
And I said, hey, I did the thing, but I think there's more to give. And I said, but if I'm in now, I'm in for 20, not in for 6, right? And so we sat down and decided, we're gonna do this. We're gonna pursue this. And so I committed to it's gonna be a 20-year National Guard career. And the old saying used to be, 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks a year.
Yeah, not exactly.
Never really worked out that way.
Yeah.
So during that time, I deployed to Haiti and did earthquake. I built the border. I deployed my company to Germany. I had a wonderful amount of experiences in the Guard, and I was in the Indiana Guard at this time. In 2016, we moved to Idaho, and I transitioned to the Idaho Army National Guard.
You're welcome. I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
No, Idaho's a wonderful place.
It is.
If you haven't been, it took us one day to fall in love with Idaho and decide, this is where, and things fell into place where it just worked out. So during that entire time I was in Indiana, I was teaching really high school physics. When I came to Idaho, I had an opportunity to work at Boise State University in their Veteran Services Office, and then eventually in their Division of Extended Studies, working with rural and military and community college and online students. So then I spent the next 8 years working for Boise State University, and
still in the Guard at this time.
Still in the Guard. Still in the Guard. Because of some stuff that I was exposed to in Iraq, I ended up getting medically retired from the military, which occurred July of 2024. And at that point, probably 3 months prior to that, you had a lunch and learn about classical education with Steve Lambert. And I happened to be sitting in the audience because I'm probably the closest person to the field house. So I was like, this is easy. I'll just drive over and ride over there. And I had Boise State University is a wonderful university. It's a wonderful place to work. I was doing tremendous work over there. I had absolutely no reason to leave, except, eventually you do have to believe in divine providence. And when you're hearing somebody talk about that they want somebody with educational experience and somebody with military experience to lead this new school founding effort, and understanding that, I'll be transitioning from the military soon. This is maybe my kids were both going off to school. I was like, all right, this is somebody telling me, you better look into this. And so I think I sat down with you a couple of weeks later and we started talking about it. And I talked to Bruce, who was in my cohort, about it, who was at another classical school. And I talked to people at Boise State that I knew and trusted. And lo and behold, July 1st, I'm founding principal for Valor Classical Academy.
Move fast.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. I think that's part of the beauty of Idaho and this classical world, right? There's such a desire for it and such a need for it that you can, things move fast.
Well, the right people and the right opportunities. It's really just a matter of connecting them. Mm-hmm. And so, in full disclosure, the Bloom Public Charter School Network, of which the
Correct.
American Classical Schools of Idaho are a part of, or a JCAF, or J.N. Catherine Albertson Family Foundation, who I work for. They're an initiative of that, and it's something we're really proud of, because if you took every public charter school in the Bloom network and they were their own independent school district, they'd be the highest performing in Idaho. And that means a lot to us. And honestly, ACSI, the Classical Schools of Idaho, like, they're one of the few that have really established all over the state. And it seems like even when, because I remember when it was proposed to build a classical academy in Avamore, and I'm like, no one's going to take their kids up to Avamore on every day. They were full on day one. Right? Am I lying?
So, as much as Mission 43 does for veterans and military spouses, what I've seen Bloom do, it feels the equivalent, right, for charter schools and for developing those. It's an amazing, we are so blessed in this state to have the Albertsons Foundation with a vision to facilitate these efforts, right, to do these things, because I don't know how they happen otherwise. When I tell military friends outside of the state what Mission 43 provides, or you walk them through the field house when they're visiting, everybody's blown. I can't believe you guys have this. And when I meet with other charter school leaders, they can't believe what we have in Bloom too, right? They can't believe the support that we have. I don't know how you do this without an organization like that supporting you, right? Between ACSI, Bloom, the network that's been built up of classical academies, right? I'm standing on the shoulders of giants, right?
Well, you're also, give yourself some credit too. Like, we're extremely proud. We as Mission 43 and JCAF are really proud that the Leaders Fellowship has truly become this talent pool, a quiver of talented arrows that we get to shoot at every opportunity that we see. And it seems to be working. We have you, we have Joanne Collins, we have Bruce Sims that are all now involved in teaching, educating, leading schools in the public charter school network. And it's something that has been extremely effective. And to see what you're doing now with not a military school at all, but with a classical academy that has a very significant tone of service and sacrifice in honor of John Borbonus, local Boise kid here that did more than most will ever do. It's remarkable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I do love the Leaders Fellowship, and I would encourage any veteran, military member or their spouse to start getting involved with Mission 43 and see if the Leaders Fellowship is right for them. It's some of my closest friendships now are through the Leaders Fellowship, and it's amazing to sit around with a group of men and a group of women, and it's just support, right? It's just, you want the best for these people, and your people are willing to help you achieve that, right? And just an amazing, I kind of feel like, sometimes I kind of did some stuff, and then I meet other Leaders Fellows like, oh, I haven't done anything in life. These people are amazing, incredible, to include yourself, Dan. Like, you've done some stuff, right? And it just inspires you to kind of, oh, cool, I don't have to be done. I can do some other stuff, right? And I can look and pursue some opportunities, and to have those opportunities presented, right? And it's amazing. It really, and I think the other really, here's a cheap plug. This is the only thing that that my wife and I have ever done the same training, right? The same event. It's the only thing that
before you, I'm just saying.
She did go before me, and she was, but this was, to have that same experience that we can talk about and say, oh, this was what was in my cohort, and this is what my cohort was like. And our wilderness, its immersion was like this, and ours was like this, it becomes a strong bond. Mm-hmm. And so I would encourage all the spouses to participate. I would encourage all the military members to participate. And especially if one of you has done it, I think the other one probably should.
We're getting more and more of that. We have quite a few, even though we don't allow spouses to be in the same cohort.
Yeah.
We have had a lot of people like you and Dawn that have gone through separate cohorts and had that shared experience. I never actually thought about that, where it's literally a couple going through the similar training, even though it's a different time period.
Yeah.
That have a new common bond.
Yeah, I think it's better to not go through it at the exact same time, because it is a commitment, right? And but it's an amazing experience, right?
Well, you also go really deep. Like we kind of force people to get out of their comfort zone and open up about all kinds of things, personal, professional, otherwise.
Yeah, and you're sitting with people and you're having conversations and you're being able, and I would say you're almost pre-vetted people, because you have to be selected to be a part of this. And so when I meet another Leaders Fellow, I know they're probably a pretty good person, and I know that I can talk to them and I'm willing to help them as much as I can.
That's a powerful network to be a part of.
It's a wonderful network to be a part of.
Did you ever expect at this point in your life that to be doing this, to be living in Boise, Idaho, to be a retired Army officer, to be a principal of a classical academy? Is this kind of like how you saw things going for yourself?
No, and I think it's unfair that we expect that of children also, right? And when we talk to kids in high school, like, all right, what's your career path? What are you doing in life?
Astronaut, right? Pro football player.
Yeah. But and I sometimes use this analogy, right? When we look at education and, the way we raise people, we think we're giving them a map for the rest of their life, right? All right, here's your map. Just do this task, do this, and then you'll be fine. Well, most of the time, people are holding the map upside down, or there's stuff written on the map that isn't true, or it's just blank, because you're like, think about, where the career fields are compared to when I graduated high school to when, Google didn't exist. Amazon did not exist. These are the biggest companies in the world right now, right? So what I talk about with my own kids also is a compass. And this is kind of the way I view classical education. We're giving them a compass that always points in the correct direction. So I didn't know that I would be teaching or founding a charter school in February of this year. I had never would have thought about that. And then I was exposed to it. And then I explored it. And then I talked to people I trusted. Then I sat with, a cohort of leaders and talked to them. And I had this compass that told me, oh, this is probably the thing that you should do. I had absolutely no reason to leave Boise. Again, Boise State's a wonderful university. I'm so proud of my time there, right? I'm so proud of the work that we did there. But it also was that moment. And so I really have tried to stop living life like I have a roadmap that's going to take me exactly where I think I need to be, that everything I can plan out. And instead I rely upon, okay, I have this compass and I know what direction it points in. And I know this is true and good and beautiful. And I'm going to follow that.
I'm curious about, and I'm not sure if this is going to be a sensitive question or not, but as far as the Classical Academy model, because it's how you and Dawn, it's how your family live your lives, is virtue is important, active citizenship is important. But what do you say to people that say or believe wholeheartedly that school is not a place to impart morality?
So the number one teacher of all of our students is the parents, right? And so there is nothing that we are going to, we're very transparent. Here's the 6 virtues that we are going to teach. And this is a school of choice. And so it is open enrollment. Anybody can apply to be a part of this, right? And if we have open seats, great, you get one. And if we get over our capacity, then we have a lottery, and then everybody's randomly chosen. But in no way do we supplement or do we overtake the parents' responsibility, that way. But we have a responsibility to help make American citizens. And if you don't think that you're teaching your kids moral value, whatever, everything teaches, right? We're very open and deliberate on here's the morals here's the virtues we're going to teach. Here's what, we want your students to be courteous. We want them to self-govern. We want them to have perseverance, right? And this is what we encourage throughout our entire thing. So it's not in replacement of the parents. I mean, the firm hope is that we're supplementing what the parents are already doing.
Mm-hmm. What are you most excited about? I mean, you've been in education for a lot longer than I actually knew, like in the education realm.
So here's what sold me on classical education. So I'm going to tell you two things that I'm excited about.
Okay.
All right. So first is that first graduating class, right? A little ways away.
Yeah.
All right. That first graduating class, when I see them prepared to be independent citizens of this country and go forth and do amazing stuff. And then, one of the things that really sold me on classical education is I visited Valor Classical Academy, which is in Fruitland and Payette. And you walk into a classical classroom. Now, all the students are in uniforms. The teacher, it's a very professional setting. And when I walked into a third grade classroom, I was being toured around, and little girl walks up. She goes, "Hi, I'm Aaron. You're in Mrs. Smith's class. We're doing grammar. You can sit here." And just, obviously this greeting. I was like, well, that was pretty great. This third grade, none of the students were distracted by me at all.
My third grader would have been like, "Sup, man?
Yeah.
Bars over there."
So then we go to a fourth grade classroom. Same routine. And so, I'm looking at the person that gives me a tour. I'm like, let's go to kindergarten. I know you got kindergarten here. Let's go to kindergarten. Walk in kindergarten classroom. Little dude gets up from his chair, walks over, and goes, "Hi, I'm John. This is Mrs. Jones's classroom." And he pauses. He goes, "I forget what else I'm supposed to say." I was like, "It's good, man. It's good."
That's awesome.
And at that moment, right, when you see what students can achieve, right, and when you look at that kindergarten classroom, and it's orderly, and it's, all those virtues are there, and what the students are doing and what students are capable of. So I'm most looking forward to those students, right? And seeing what those students are capable of when we put them in this environment with very high expectations, where we're very high expectations and very high standards for the way that we go about this. And it's amazing to see students achieve that.
Do you feel pressure at all? Like
being... Yeah, no, this is, I'm making a commitment to these parents, right? When I say this is what we will be, this is, it's like being a military officer, right? At the end of the day, you are responsible for everything.
I was going to say, there's a lot of parallels here between military service, especially in any kind of leadership position. You're morally and legally responsible for the well-being and lives of these people. Now, the stakes might be slightly different, but I'm not really sure. It seems like, is this your way of continuing service?
Yes. I mean, it is.
No hesitation.
Yeah. I mean, it is a service, because there's a lot easier ways to make money. There's a lot easier things that you can do, right? But is there more important stuff for me to do? I don't think so, right? I think when we have that vision, and to be the steward of that mission and that vision, and to have that trust of those parents, and to say, hey, here's what we can provide, right? We're going to teach your kids phonics, right? And we're going to teach them virtues, right? That's a big responsibility. It's a responsibility, and it's an honor to do it. To have that trust, to have that faith. And I'm really proud of the team that we have. So far we're a team of 2. So I am the founding principal, but one of my first decisions was to bring on our Amber Orozco, who's our assistant principal. And she shares that same vision and mission, and to build this culture. And she brings some amazing talents and some amazing things to what we're going to do as part of this school. And now as we start building out that talent pool, and we've been very fortunate to have some really amazing people that have reached out to us. And as I build our faculty and we build our support staff and we build the community around this school, we're really going to be able to do some amazing stuff and be, a shining light on the hill, because we're a little bit elevated.
So when can people start applying? So I have very little to offer. I have no virtues or virtuous activity that I can offer. But I do love yelling at small children. So are you looking for teachers?
So yeah, we're looking for some kindergarten cop types like you. Just big dudes that, we could throw into. No,
it's not a tumor. These are your lunches? Oh, sorry.
So we are, we were approved in December by the Idaho Charter Commission to be a charter school. We do not have a building yet. We are in the process of constructing that building. That's why, we have a year and a half, right? And we talked about the Declaration of Independence, 1776. Mm-hmm. Gosh, I want to be cutting a ribbon in 2026 at the 250th anniversary of this country's founding. I want to be cutting a ribbon on Valor Classical Academy, giving a speech about the founding of this country and how we're continuing that American tradition there. That is so my awesome. Absolute positive goal, right? July 4th, 2026.
I get butterflies.
So we start backing off from that. This spring, we'll start building our faculty. So this isn't for everybody, right?
No.
Being a classical educator is demanding, but it's also very rewarding, right? So we'll start building our faculty, but right now, we are also recruiting those students, right?
Sure.
And so when we open up, again, we'll be K through 6. We'll have 54 students per grade, and those are the slots that we'll have available. So if parents in Kuna, Southwest Boise, and South Meridian, if you're interested, filling out the intent to enroll, so when our lottery opens up, that you'll make sure that you're aware that, hey.
Is that already open then?
No, the lottery will open, we're projecting probably in December.
The intent to enroll. Someone could technically do that right now?
Yes, they can fill in the intent to enroll.
Where do they do that?
So you can do that off of our website at vcaidaho.org, all right, or go to our Facebook. You should be able to find us in Valor Classical Academy, and then you can find links through there. And then what the intent to enroll does at this point, it just expresses your interest. You're not committing to enrolling.
Right.
You're just saying, hey, this is something I'm interested in. Keep me informed about what's going on.
Sean, I'm so thankful to have you in this Mission 43 network. I'm so thankful for you and your much more amazing wife, Dawn, to be friends. And I am extremely grateful that there's people like you that are willing to put themselves out there and take on the burden and responsibility of raising the next generation of American citizens, because it's something that means more than the world to me.
Dan, I can't thank you enough again for help in Mission 43, for putting me in this position to do those things, right? I don't know how I get here, except through the network and the support of Mission 43, our fellow veterans, spouses, the Albertsons Foundation, all the great people that have done work to put us at this point where I think Idaho is ready to accelerate into an amazing space and do some amazing things.
Well, all those things are true, except for I'm the only one that has no claim to credibility or any credit whatsoever in your process. But in true officer fashion, I will take credit for all of it. Thank you for being here, Sean.
Thanks.
Thanks for joining us for the Mission 43 podcast. We hope you found it informative and helpful. If you have any questions or feedback, please comment below or email podcast@mission43.org. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our podcast to stay up to date with new episodes. Be proud of your service, not defined by it. See you next time.